Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Hadi Mian here with another episode of RevTalks. Today we're joined with Roger Toennis. How are you doing today, Roger?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Hadi.
Thank you so much for joining and being here. Please give us a little bit of background about yourself and your company for the audience.
Sure, absolutely. As I said, my name's Roger Tonis, and my company is called QuickAlign.ai. And my background originally is I'm an engineer. I'm an electrical engineer. I've got bachelor's and master's degrees in electrical engineering, but I've worked in software for many, many years. And I've also done startups in the past. And so that's where I got my start. And I've also currently a part of a venture capital team in the world of space because I worked in space as well. So that's how I kind of got my start.
Understood, understood. So my first question for you is regarding QuickAlign AI. When a new customer or kind of project deal comes into the business, how do they actually find you?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's there's really two ways they can find us. Number one is we will do direct sales, and that will take leads, and we'll even somewhat look for leads direct to go and do a direct sale into a enterprise. So we're a B2B solution, ideally looking for leaders and teams that are struggling to get everybody engaged and get on the same page and make good decisions together so they can follow through. But what we ultimately want to do is we want to go through channel partners. And those channel partners often are executive coaches that work with leaders or teams. And they often can be change management consultants. They could be organizational development consultants, anybody that works with an organization of some size and could even be small size. But they're working with these folks and they say, hey, you've got a team that's struggling and want to get them on the same page, get them aligned. And I've got a software tool that I've been using from this company called QuickAlign, and then they will introduce the tool, and as part of their services that the client has already paid for, they will get an experience of my software. So they don't even have to pay for my software when they go through one of my channel partners. So what we try to do
Understood.
is kind of do a little bit of both of those.
Understood. Can you briefly walk me through at least how QuickAlign has grown over the past 12 months?
Sure, we're very early, so from a growth perspective, we're hoping to get into that over the next year. So we've only recently in the past 3 months gotten to the point where we're really at a beta state. So we've been in early beta. We've been working directly with some of our early beta customers, and it's only now, really, literally this month, that we're ready to go to an expanded beta, and actually we're even ready for paid beta for discount customers who are like, "Hey, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen." So, your early adopters, your bleeding edge folks, they're like, "Yeah, I'm ready to pay for that beta software." Bugs, I don't care. I love bugs. I eat bugs for breakfast. So, you always want to look for those kind of customers when you're in that
Mhm.
early beta because they'll actually pay for your software even though it's buggy or it doesn't have enough support or the UI is a little questionable. So I always say that. So that's where we're at right now. And so we don't actually have our first paying customer. We're kind of on the verge of that. And so it's a really exciting time for us.
That's great to hear. That's honestly really great to hear. Has there been some sort of marketing or sales initiatives that have kind of moved the needle in any way?
Yeah, and again, it depends on the stage that you're at. And when
Mhm. Yeah.
if you're listening to this and you're a software CEO and you're saying, "Hey, what do I do at this stage that Roger's at?" You have to be really focused on one deal at a time and really ask for word of mouth is and always will be the best form of marketing,
Mhm.
especially for companies that are at a stage like I'm at right now. So reach out to your near and close in network. And that's what I'm doing. I'm reaching out to that close in network. Hey, Steve. Hey, Beth, I know we used to work together at so and so. Hey, could you, beta test my software, or do you know somebody you could introduce me to? So use word of mouth marketing in your early days, even when you get into post beta where you're kind of into your first 1.0. And that's what I'm doing right now is really using that approach, that word of mouth approach. And again, it's always super powerful. And if you've got something that is really a high value solution, you always want to make sure that even though you're going out and you're doing your SEO and you're working on, hey, we're going to get the word out through the marketing channels. Never forget that your best form of marketing is people that know you, customers that are using your software, and empower them to go and market for you. In addition to, hey, yeah, I got to have a marketing team, and we got to have that messaging there, and we got to get whether it's out through the web or whether it's on TikTok or it's on, Instagram or any of the social medias or in, any of the emerging medias. So never forget, and that's what we're doing is never forget that your customers are your best channel for marketing.
Understood, understood. Now, other than the word of mouth referrals, are there any other kinds of marketing that your business could utilize to acquire more customers?
Yeah, again, it depends on stage, right?
The
Once you're
stage.
getting, we're 3 years down the road and we're going to scale and we've got potentially millions of customers, then you're talking about a different thing. But right now, again, in addition, it's kind of related to word of mouth is physically go to places in person. In the early days of the web, it was like, oh my God, this is so powerful. We can just use these electronic things. We can use social media. We can use whatever. And we don't have to have a huge marketing team. We don't have to go anywhere. We can just go into the virtual spaces. But now it's come back around and all of a sudden it's like a renaissance of, hey, you can actually physically go to some of these events and talk about yourself and talk to people in person. So physical event marketing is something that we're doing at this stage. And again, wherever you're at, if you're listening to this, wherever your company's at, depending on where the stage you're at, you're going to have a different marketing mix. There's going to be no magic bullet for forever. You're going to have to constantly evolve what you're doing with your marketing, and that's what I'm doing. So that's where I'm at. I'm like face to face. I'm one to one with people I already know in my network, and do that with everyone you know. Kind of expand one degree of separation into your friends of your friends. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Definitely. Where does QuickAlign need to be in, let's say, 18 months for you to feel like it has a real momentum to really, shoot forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. And again, this goes to really planning out your future. And even though being agile and move fast and break things that we've been talking about for years with startups is also part of what you need to continue to do, you also need to have a plan, right? Because you can always change the plan, but you need to have a plan. And so what we're doing right now is getting ready for over the next 18 months to really have that channel that I talked about earlier,
Mhm.
right? So I want to grow it up to where I have enough paying customers to where those channel partners will go, wait a minute, there's people, and some of those people look like my customers and they're buying software from this guy, Roger. Maybe I should bring that. And it looks like I could use that software to help my clients make decisions because it's kind of what I do as a channel partner, as an executive coach or as a change management consultant. Okay. So the way I want to measure myself is how many of these channel partners have I trained, because I'm going to give them free training. So normally it would cost $1,800 per person to run them through the training that we would have for them. So what we do is we say, hey, normally this would be $1,800, but I've reached out, and because you're an executive coach, because you've got certification, because you're awesome, I see you on LinkedIn, I see the things that you're doing. We're going to give you this training, this 6-week training, normally $1,800. It's for free. And you come in, and when you come out, you'll have a certification. And if you're an executive coach or if you're a project management coach or something like this, we're going to get registered. So they're actually going to get a certification they can put on their LinkedIn. So they're not going to pay for it. And they're going to get a certification that allows them to put a little badge on their LinkedIn profile. And so they're like, wow, this is a killer deal. So then they come in, we train them on the software. And then we say at the end, hey, in return for giving you this free thing, we would love for you to actually give it, one or two of your customers, and we'll support you. We'll go out there. So what you have to do is you have to attract and enable your channel partners. So in 18 months, to finally get to answer your question, I want to have over 100 channel partners that are actively selling my software into their customer base. So that's where I want to be.
You've led innovation at enterprises and also at startups. So, if anything, what's the thing enterprise experience taught you that most pure startup founders get wrong?
Oh, that's a great question. And it's really this. It's really two things. Number one is there's some amazing, innovative, wonderful people that want to buy your software inside that organization, right? They're in the line that you understand who they are. They need your software, but you know what? They've got to go through all these processes. They've got to check with IT. They've got to make sure that your software isn't going to bore a VPN hole into the IT platform, and the CIO is going to get in trouble with the CEO. And then if depending on what organization, if it's a marketing solution, the chief marketing officer has to be involved. If it's a finance solution, the CFO has to be involved. So there's all this complexity in the large organization. And what you need to do is understand that complexity. Don't just say, yeah, but my software is awesome for the CFO's team or the CMO's team or the CIO's team. Yeah, it is. but you got to start to understand the culture inside of a large organization. So don't just do your research and understand the value proposition of your software into that organization. Do your research on the mindset and the psychology and the buying behavior, because there's a buying process inside of an organization. And it at the very beginning is somebody inside the organization would love to have your software. There's, the IT, obviously, I think everybody knows about IT. But if it's a human resources solution thing, you've got to get people that are advocates inside of HR or marketing or whatever. So be aware of the complexity of what's called enterprise buying behavior.
Understood. Now, how large is your team at QuickAlign? How many team members do you have?
We're very small. We're 6 people, and that's we only have a handful of developers. I'm the CTO, so I'm not really hands on, but we're using AI as everybody is these days, alongside of experienced developers. I've got a co-founder. I've got basically a person who's fractional marketing, fractional CFO, fractional
Mhm.
IT. So everything's fractional, right? Except for the two co-founders right now, and and the developer, the one developer, and
Understood.
then we have a fractional other developer, what a front end person.
So, and then on top of that, so what's the hardest technical problem, at least with that team, that you're still solving with QuickAlign?
I think the hardest technical problem that we're working on right now is multi-tenant. If people out there are familiar, I'm sure most everyone listening to this is probably familiar with multi-tenant, especially in the world of B2B that I was just talking about. You got to make sure, especially in these days with the amount of hacking that's going on and AI assisted hacking, your solution has got to pass the test with IT for your customers. And so you've got to be able to promise and keep the promise that the data you're gathering from these organizations.
Understood. Understood. Now, yeah, that's definitely a big problem. I mean, just with all the cyber attacks out there with AI, kind of, I agree that that's a big problem that a lot of, founders and operators still need to kind of make their way through, especially in this day and age. I couldn't agree more. Now, if you have one kind of, if you could tell a startup founder any sort of advice for starting some sort of B2B software product, in 2026, how would you kind of start all over again if you could tell someone else, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So what goes to some of what I was saying, right? You may have a good idea because you've worked inside of a large organization and you punched out and you're going to solve that problem from the outside. And that's a legitimate thing. And you've seen it from the inside, there's a problem. But what I would do, even though you feel like you really get it, is to find an advisor that is from that industry that's not you, right? Because we can all say, "Oh, I've been there. I've been inside that company, and I've been there myself." But fresh eyes, somebody who's willing to tell you no, somebody who's willing to tell you that you're full of BS about what you think and challenge you. And because it's too easy with a small team, especially a bunch of excited founders, to get into an echo chamber and start, to use a rough analogy, start smelling your own farts and thinking they smell good. So hopefully that's not too rough. But that's what I would recommend. Make sure that you start getting external people who are willing to tell you the truth, literally from before you even write the first line of code. And just say, look, give them a piece of the company, a small piece, small, fractional, 1%, less than 1%. You can do it. And find those people that are willing, that love what you're trying to do and that really like you and that you trust. And, because it's too easy to get into an echo chamber and start believing your own bullshit. So that's what I would recommend. Start from the beginning. Don't buy everything that comes out of your own brain, right? Bounce it off somebody else. And AI is a good tool to do some of that, but AI sucks up. We all know that now, right?
Yeah,
So you can't trust your AI to tell you the truth about what you don't know, right?
definitely.
So get real human beings to come in and do that. Use AI. AI is a great tool. I've been working in AI for decades.
Wow,
But make sure that you get human intelligence, not just artificial intelligence. I call that AHI, not AI. Augment human intelligence with artificial intelligence. That's what that means.
that's so great to hear. And so my final question is, and I think you talked about it before, kind of with how you're gonna get more clients and to kind of scale your business with QuickAlign, but are there any specific goals that you have as we move through 2026?
Yeah. In addition to, like you said, there's a bunch of other things, but one of the things that I also want to mention is pre- start from the beginning preparing for customer testimonials, right? Like have it in your mind that I'm going to engage in this beta trial in such a way that by the end, I can envision that this person is going to write a glowing review of my software. Right.
Understood.
So, start with the end in mind. And one of the ends is not just that they're going to pay for it, which is a great thing in and to itself. That speaks for itself, right? Whenever VCs or angels look at what you're doing, it's like, who's paying for it? Right. That's critical. But also who's going to say why they're paying for it. Right. And if you get to that point where people are paying for it, ask them to say why and write it down. And then say, hey, can I put that on my website so that people know why you're paying for it?
Understood. Now, where can the audience find you on LinkedIn? What's your company's website and your LinkedIn as well?
Sure. So my website is QuickAlign. So pretty easy. And my name is Roger Toennis, and you can find I'm the only Roger Toennis on the planet. So RogerToennis. You can just that's my tag on LinkedIn. So shoot me a note if you want to talk more. One of the things I've done for a while, one of the companies I have is sort of in the back burner now is I do founder advisory, and my company's called Founder Advisors.
Wow. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us on Rev Talk today and giving us an insight on the QuickAlign as well as some of your work in the past. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you so much.
All right. But appreciate you too, Hadi. And I appreciate what you guys are doing with this. This is a fantastic solution. Talk to people 15 minutes and roll. I love